Oh, hi, hello, and welcome for another ASMR. Subject for today, in my opinion, I just found here on web the most silliest or weirdest words ever fought over land, ideology, power. Well, and history is full of these types of conflicts, which broke out from the most weirdest, absurd reasons. Well, some of them they are more stranger than fiction, so let's unveil them, of course. For each I gathered some stats, facts, and some secrets maybe. Let's start. The first one is the name says it all. The War of the Stray Dog. War of the Stray Dog. In 1925, it was between Greece and Bulgaria. The durations 11 days, casualties 50 people. The silly fact: a Greek soldier chased his runaway dog across the Bulgarian border, leading to a border guards to shoot at him. Greece retailed by invading Bulgaria. And the outcome? The League of Nations fined Greece with £45,000 to stop the war. My God. Yes, so a dog sparked a conflict between two countries, an innocent dog. Next in the list, the Big War, 1859. Yes, Big War, big. Who? United States against the United Kingdom. What? Yes. The duration was 4 months. Technically lasted until 1872. 4 months. The casualties. One pig. Just one pig. And now the silly fact. The war started when an American farmer shot a British-owned pig because that pig ate his potatoes. My God. Outcome, or the aftermath, a military standoff lasted months, but no shots were fired except at that pig. Right, poor pig. He just ate some potatoes, but that American farmer had a very high affinity for his private property, right? Good. Another animal that sparked an international conflict. The M War, 1932. Who? Australia versus Emmy. Well, not Australia. Australian Army versus emus. Emus, that feathered birds, are related to ostrich in Africa, but emus are endemic to Australia continent. Duration 1 month. Well, I just made a video about this, only dedicated to this subject, so click on the top right corner. 3,500 emus, but Australian army lost. Yes, Australia lost this war. It was the first war when humans lost against animals. The silly fact is that Australian soldiers, armed with machine guns, were outmaneuvered and outnumbered, of course, by emus, birds, and the birds keep dodging the bullets and escaping. So, finally, the government gave up, admitting defeat against emus. Alright, this was in 1932. Good, next. Football War, 1969. Alright, let's have a look because we know how the conflicts between different groups of football fanatics can escalate, but this one was even more. It was between El Salvador and Honduras. This conflict lasted 100 hours. But the casualties, 3,000 people. The reason the war was triggered by tension during the World Cup qualifying match between El Salvador and Honduras in 1969. And this escalated in a conflict between these two nations, and 3,000 people died. The aftermath, a ceasefire was reached, but tension remains for years. Okay, that's my tasty story. The War of Jenkins' Ear. 1739-1748, between Britain and Spain. 9 years duration of the conflict, and 25,000 people in causality statistics. Now the silly fact is, the war was named after a British sailor, Robert Jenkins, whose ear was allegedly cut off by Spanish forces. He kept the ear in a jar and showed it to the parliament. That was the reason. And outcome, the Britain retaliates, gained a little from the war, and it emerged into a large conflict with Spain, against Spain, right? So, another ego-escalated conflict. So, another weird war, absurd war, the Bucket War, 1325, between two states or kingdoms, Modena versus Bologna, Italy, well, cities. Duration, one day, and 2,000 people perished. And now, the absurd reason. The entire war was started because soldiers of Modena stole a wooden bucket from Bologna, and Bologna revenged. The outcome, Modena won. So, let's say the attackers won and kept the bucket, which is still displayed in a museum in Modena. Now, tell me this isn't an absurd way to start a conflict. a water bucket. Oh my God. Next. The ligar word. Ligar. Well, is in Spanish ligar. Ligar. From 1883 to 1981. So, 98 years. The sides. Ligar, a tiny Spanish village, versus France. Well, this was a war, a conflict, spanned along 98 years without any casualties. But the weird reason is that the war was declared because the people of Ligar were offended when French disrespected the King of Spain. And during 98 years, this France was in a war, in a hypothetical war with a Spanish village only, and the peace was finally signed in 1981. What? So, but at least there were no casualties, so that's a good fact. Next in the list, the Anglo-Zanzibar War. Anglo-Zanzibar War, 1896. United Kingdom versus Zanzibar. Wow, the durations is not years, not months, not days, minutes. Its duration was between 38 to 45 minutes. It is recorded as the shortest ever war held by two countries. The casualties, 500 on Zanzibar side and one British soldier injured. And now the quirky fact is that Zanzibar Palace was bombarded into surrender in under 1 hour. A pro-British Sultan was installed, and that was the end of the conflict. Wow, 45 minutes. This is how long the conflict lasted. So, alright, next in the list, the Great Paraguayan War. 1864 to 1870. The sides, the countries involved: Paraguay versus Brazil, Argentina and Uruguay, 4 countries which are neighboring each other. The duration was 6 years. 6 years. Casualties: 300,000 men died, almost 90% of Paraguay's male population. And now the silly reason. This war started because Paraguay's leader, Francisco Solano Lopez, had a Napoleon complex and wanted to challenge 3 bigger countries at once in order to conquer them and transform Paraguay in an empire. Well, Paraguay was utterly devastated. Well, that's incredible. Another bucket war next, 14th century, the of the oaken bucket. Oaken bucket. This time again, Bologna versus Modena. Well, duration is 1 battle, causality is 4,000. Another wooden bucket stolen from a well lead to the conflict. Bologna lost and Modena won and has still the bucket even today. The bucket remains in Modena to this day. Alright. Next, the pastry war. The pastry war, 1838 to 1839. France versus Mexico. Duration of the conflict 4 months. 250 causalities. The absurd reason: a French pastry chief in Mexico City claimed his shop was looted by Mexican soldiers, and he demanded compensation. When Mexico refused, France blockaded its ports and bombarded the city. Outcome: France won due to the blockade of the ports, and Mexico had no other way out just to pay 600,000 pesos in damages. Alright. Well, I didn't have any clue about these absurd conflicts. Next, the last one, the Kettle War. Kettle War. Netherlands versus Holy Empire in 1784. Durations at just a few hours, causalities none. The weird fact: the only shot fired in the entire war hit a soup kettle on an enemy ship. Seeing this, the Holy Roman Empire surrendered immediately. The Netherlands won without any real fighting. Okay, something is missing here. Why they did surrender just when they saw a shot, a fired shot? Wow. Well, these are the most absurd wars ever recorded, in my opinion, so that's why I made this list. While some of these were tragic and destructive because involved many causalities, like I mentioned, this is a reminder that history can also be downright silly. Whatever sparked by a stolen bucket from Modena, a runaway dog, a love of breed, these ridiculous wars show that human nature is sometimes, or goes sometimes too far, and it is very chaotic. By the way, now it's time to you to write down some comments related to this topic. Which one do you think is the most absurd, ridiculous conflict from this list? Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I wish you all the best. Bye bye.